Well, good morning, everybody. As you watch this animation of current lightning strikes here early in the morning on Friday, I want to give you a quick rundown of this forecast video. We will be talking about more severe weather down here in parts of the Mid-South, and this has been an area that has been plagued by numerous very heavy precipitation events so far this year. We'll recap yesterday's severe weather, look at who received precipitation, who did not, and then we're going to start to stretch this out into this near-term pattern, which continues to remain quite active, at least through the middle of next week. Now, thinking that through, I want to bring up an idea today, all right? And the idea is this. We've been discussing since most of April about how the total atmospheric momentum is in a lower than average state. In other words, when you look at the rotation of the Earth and compare it to the movement of the atmosphere's momentum state is low. Okay. We know that that tends to historically produce systems that give us much larger disparity in rainfall. In other words, we tend to see more flooding and drought occurring at the same time because the waves get a bit longer and they get a bit slower. That's been a discussion point going forward. At the end of this video, after we talk a bit about frost threats across the northern tier of the United States and watch this temperature pattern evolve, I want to make a case for what's going on for the rest of May into June and possibly July and August based on my understanding of the lower momentum state of the atmosphere. We're then going to look at what's going on with the new CPC updates plus their extended summer drought outlook. So all of that is ahead. If you just want the long-range stuff, get to about right here, and we'll be able to talk through that. But we still have quite a bit of near-term weather that needs to be discussed, including what's going on right here with our severe weather early this morning. I just want to take you back and show you a radar animation of what this system looked like, because as we watch severe storms leave Wisconsin, get into northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Michigan, they cut across Huron and Ontario, got into this part of Ontario here, and then eventually made their way into parts of New York and Pennsylvania. We're going to watch the tail end of that front again today bring up the risk of significant severe storms down here across the south. Multi-hazard threat, everything from hail and wind to the risk of tornadoes. Very high probability of those occurring. On the backside where the low is curling up, the temperatures have already dropped. The winds have picked up substantially, and we're starting just to see here the major shift occurring behind this deeper low. Now, I mentioned some of the stuff about severe weather. I wanted to give you a quick kind of rundown of what that looks like. This is how things started off, though, on the 14th, coming out of northeast Colorado, clipping parts of Nebraska and South Dakota with 188 reports, most of them from wind. We'll take a look at that rainfall right here in just a few moments. But this is what happened yesterday. Last 24 hours, just looking at hail. My Uncle John actually lives over here in Bloomington, Illinois. And he said he reported golf ball size or larger hail yesterday. But some of these storms up around Chicago, getting into southern Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, there were multiple tornado reports through here as well. These were some pretty nasty storms. And just to kind of give you the total number of reports from yesterday, here's a quick look at that. So we're at 452 total reports. A lot were wind and hail, but we did have 14 separate reports of tornadoes. Now, we can't ignore the fact that we've had severe weather that's been in North Carolina, heavy rains that moved out of North Carolina and Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and into southern Pennsylvania. Now, some of that area needed some of that rain, but it's been too much when you look back over the last 7 days for certain spots here. Okay, so we saw the hail. Let's now get into the total precip. As I mentioned, you can see the heavier rainfall totals that have gotten into this area. And we watched so much of the southeast slide into drought until late last week into the weekend's rainfall event that hit this area. But when I think about the upper Midwest, the northern plains, how well the models did, I think they did an excellent job with this, the heavier rains that were on the backside, where we watched the atmosphere kind of squeeze on the backside of that low after multiple days of rain ahead of it. So this was very well forecast, this band in through here, very heavy rainfall. But as I mentioned, many were going to be disappointed with the rainfall forecast if you were in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and farther east. And the reason for that was because the way that these storms come through, when we use our longer range model, like the GFS or the European, the resolution prevents that model from being able to simulate convection, so it's parameterized. And as a result, you get these streaky storms that deliver locally heavy rain. But if you were missed, and I'm really thinking a lot about this area, if you were missed in this region, your drought situation continues to get worse. And now we're getting really dependent on next week's rainfall to make this kind of fill in. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Now, the moisture that you see in parts of Nebraska, this was desperately needed, but along I-80, we are still in deficit. So as you come over here toward, Omaha, Council Bluffs, getting into western Iowa, there's been kind of a longer standing issue with development of drought, and it's quite deep in parts of Nebraska despite the heavier rains farther to the north here. Now, that's not our only spot. I'm just picking out an area that we've been discussing quite a bit lately. On satellite, there was so many fascinating things to watch. As we got through later in the day, watched the storms just build down the frontal boundary through Wisconsin, out of Minnesota, into northern Illinois. And while that was happening, deeper storms coming into North Carolina, a few big ones in Virginia. Look at the northeast. Broader cloud shield to the south. This is where the main frontal boundary will end up stalling today, giving us the risk of severe storms. But as I played this through the evening hours, these were some pretty impressive storms that went through here. But I'll be honest with you, while fascinated with these storms, there was a couple other things I want to point out to you on this particular map. And the first one is down here in Arizona. We were watching some satellite data and started to notice out of Arizona a couple of large fires. You can see there's smoke here moving through Arizona off to parts of New Mexico. And the other thing I was interested in was the air quality issues in Nebraska. So we started off the day with some kind of closed cell convection that moved to open cell convection toward the end of the day. That's this kind of the change in shape that you saw here. But late in the afternoon when it cleared out, see this in through here? There's quite a bit of just haze and dust blowing in the lower atmosphere that's easier to see when the sun angles become more oblique. You get better reflection off of this. And I imagine in this area, there was just really hazy conditions and probably some pretty brilliant sunsets because of this. This just comes back to a region that we've been talking a lot about in terms of drought. So can I show you 60 days worth of data? We're going back all the way from April 15th up until May 15th. And it's to make this point that these are the regions that needed to get better storm activity. Take a look at the southern part of Iowa getting into northern Missouri. Then most of Nebraska's core growing areas have really missed out. So, I mean, you can see it's really only been what was just added here lately that's helped. This pocket into Minnesota cannot be ignored either. I mean, I know it doesn't look like much. And take a look down here in parts of Kansas. Now, I know I'm focusing on the Midwest. I know a lot of my viewership is in the Midwest. But I'll be honest with you, this gets, take a look up here. If I just switch this to, let's go to the Northwest. Take a look. I mean, the Columbia Basin, eastern Oregon, parts of the Snake River Valley, very, very dry. And there's pockets in Montana that this map doesn't fully show how dry things have been in pockets. So we're just going to continue to track these things and monitor them on a national scale as we go forward. All right, today the low continues to curl up. Very strong winds on the backside of this, as you can see, are coming through parts of the northern plains out of Montana into Wyoming. And then we are expecting very strong winds there to usher in colder air. So the 24-hour temperature changed in places. It's 15, 20 degrees cooler than it was yesterday at this time. But it'll be right in through here on which that boundary sits. And you can see it early this morning in the temperatures. Now, I was watching this morning for the risk of a frost in North Dakota. But the winds were too strong. So this is just a live look at the winds. So temps did get down into the upper 30s, but you've got too much low-level mixing to get a frost in this area. What we're worried about is tomorrow morning when the winds are calm, the temperatures are going to drop off here, and that is why they've put out a freeze watch for that part of North Dakota. Now, again, we've got freeze watch overmixed with the wind advisories, high wind watches into this area. Severe thunderstorms are what's going to be the main story down through here. We do have the severe thunderstorm watch that's out already in this area, and we can see stronger winds in the southwest, parts of down here in the far southern part of Texas, still under heat advisories, and some fog this morning in the northeast. But just taking a look at how the temperature is going to play out tomorrow morning, this is when the frost risk is coming in for parts of North Dakota. We have another shot at cold air coming in here too. I'll tell you more about that in a few moments. But that's min temperatures tomorrow morning on Saturday. Okay, severe weather risk. Let's get back into it. It's going to be the Mid-South. We have moderate risk. Just kind of think about it in terms of rank. This is a 5 out of 6 on the Storm Prediction Center scale. And I'm just going to tell you, it's all hazards. Severe winds, large damaging hail, tornadic thunderstorms. If you are in this area, please have multiple modes of action to get to stay weather aware as the day goes on. I prefer weather.gov, and my favorite radar app, if you want to know, is Radar Scope. I don't plug them. I just love that app. I think it's a great one. There are many, many good radar apps out there, though. Please take advantage of that. But here's the setup afterward. I mean, we're still not done with this because there's another wave that's coming in. The 500 millibar flow is still quite vigorous here around a broader ridge that's living in the Caribbean. So with this next wave coming through, that's why you see the day 2 forecast. This will be on Saturday. Watch as one wave leave. So from New York to North Carolina, the risk of severe storms, we begin to open up the second wave here, such that by day 3, there's already an enhanced risk out for central Kansas. Now, this is the system. This is the one. This is Sunday now, right? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're going to watch to fill in some much needed kind of gaps in total precipitation. But again, before we get there, we still have one that's got to exit. So simulated radar. If we just play this forward starting at 6 a.m. this morning through the middle of the day, watch right in through this corridor. This is 3 p.m. getting towards 7 p.m. And now the model is just showing us the repeated risk of powerful thunderstorms in this area. Please be aware that this is going on. Now, that's not to ignore the deeper low over Minnesota and all the moisture surrounding it, or the storms moving into the northeast. But that's going to be the main focal point later on today. So this is getting into this evening, into the overnight hours. Through most of Tennessee, we're expecting a pretty long squall line of thunderstorms that's going to stretch into the overnight hours here. And then we get out there into tomorrow. The low curls through Lake Huron into Ontario. And then we start to see, again, more rounds of storms coming through here on Saturday night into Sunday morning. Now, already you can see the next deep low coming into the northwestern United States. And that's the one we're going to talk about next. It'll be here by Sunday, and it's ready to just fire off storms Sunday night into the southern plains of the United States. But here's where I wanted to get. This is the new WPC 7-day forecast. And we have got a problem in this area, specifically here. There's been a lot of folks that because of the rainfall frequency over the last several weeks, they've not been able to either replant after the historic flooding in April or first plant because of just how frequent the rainfall has been. We need this rain in Iowa and Illinois. We need it in Kansas and Nebraska, desperately needed. But I'm going to, again, call this into question to see if we can truly deliver moisture to these areas. Because every time I see a forecast like this out 7 days, sometimes I just take the rainfall totals and cut them in half or put them down to a third over those areas that have been so dry. And that's been an unfortunate case, whereas the places that have been wet just continue to get wetter. I mean, right now, the WPC is forecasting 5 inches of rain for St. Louis out of this. I mean, it's incredible amounts of rain. Let's look at some probabilities. Here's the chance over the next 10 days of at least 2 inches. All right, so that was the WPC forecast, is the European model. It's still very, very high in these areas. Now, thinking this through, I've been working on some new tools, and this isn't live on the internet right now, but it's kind of a ability to go through any given year and look at a summary of temperature and precipitation. NOAA has the same thing. And I'm going to kind of zoom out here and just show you a couple of things. I don't know. Let's come down here. Let's go to Jonesboro. So this is in Arkansas. And as I think through this, just take a look. This is what we're talking about. There's the historic flooding. We're way above our historical averages. They've already accumulated 30 inches of rain on the year. Average would be somewhere down here closer to about 19. So we're a solid 11 or 12. That's a foot of extra rainfall in this area. Now, on that same note, I don't know, let's come over here to parts of Nebraska. I've been picking on Kearney. Let's go to Grand Island. If we come to Grand Island, okay, look at this. We're just flatlined. There have been a couple of events, but look at the daily precipitation range. This is their big one at a ½ inch. So they're well off their historical averages, and that's where drought continues to build. Now, it's been a bit more interesting in other parts of the country. Let's kind of zoom in here and just have a look at parts of North Dakota. Let's go to Bismarck specifically. How about that? In Bismarck, well, look at that. This was the February, bottoming of temperatures. We had a couple of days in there where these low temperatures were, way down there, close to minus 30. They got really hot as of late. And those at this highs well up above 95 degrees. But if you take a look at the precip, they've been below until what's going to start to add into this graphic, which was the recent rain. It's going to take them way up above this. This new tool I have always has a 2-day quality control on it, so it'll show up here when it does. And while we're on this thing, I just kind of like playing around with it. I keep mentioning some of the drought. Let's go to Yakima just to kind of get a good look. Good spread on their temperatures. They have high diurnal ranges in Yakima, but they've also flatlined as well. So this is what this long wave setup is doing, and I just thought you might like to take a quick tour around, to kind of see these things. In fact, I talked the other day about my good friend Dr. Cole. I'm sorry, I'm going to go we just do this. He lives in Blacksburg, Virginia. So we click on Blacksburg. So Dr. Cole, if you're watching this morning, yeah, you were super wet early, flatlined, and there you got some more precipitation in just as of late. So I just wanted to show you that on this tool. Okay, back to the story. Strong winds, 50, 60 mile an hour gusts are expected as this low continues to mature. But what we're going to be watching for is the next one, right? So we've seen this roll through already in the high res NAM. There it goes. Now watch the west. Storm system comes through Sunday into Monday, opens up into the plains, and the models are attempting, this is Monday into Tuesday. See that? My eye is on Nebraska, I'll be honest with you, just because of how dry it's been in places. And we see this Tuesday into Wednesday, and the low curls up in the northeast by Thursday, Friday. Now, if I let you run out to the very end of this, some of the models are attempting by the 25th to bring in some moisture into this area. Again, I don't know. I don't buy it. It's been flip-flopping every single run on it, but I'm trying to figure out if it's really there. So this is the 23rd, 24th, 25th. So I look at this and I'm like, why is there the chance of moisture, rain coming in here when we have a ridge coming over? Well, that's poorly drawn, but the ridge coming over ending up in this broader trough. That would be a drier signal to me. But some of our week 2 forecast models are showing, like look at the European or look at the AI model. They're trying to put something into the plains. But overall into week 2, I just got to see how the long wave shapes up. And I'd still have pretty low confidence in these models' ability to predict the week 2 forecast. I've also been disappointed in their ability out at week 2 to predict temperatures. Just take a look. Here's the 7-day forecast on frost. Now, we've had a pretty good handle on this cold here, right? But what I'm talking about is this. There's max temperatures today, getting into tomorrow on Saturday. So pretty big shift across the northern tier of the United States. Still very hot across the south and up the east coast. Very cold in the west as the next wave comes in. Then this is the one that emerges on the 19th, 20th, and 21st, going across the northern tier of the U.S. Heat rebuilds in the west, stays hot across the south. We're going to be starting to talk pretty soon about excessive heat getting into the southwest very, very soon. But that was a lot of cooler weather that rolled through the northern tier, through the Midwest, and into the Northeast. And if we go back to those old forecasts, which I'm not going to do, but every one of our longer range outlooks kept showing warm, warm, warm. And it's not manifesting itself quite that same way. So the newest European model next 5 days, these are the temperature anomalies. That's day 5 through 10. And here's day 10 through 15. I'm going to make the same statement I made before. If you get the warmth here and you get the cold there, the flow is going this way. So I'm concerned that the models being so aggressive on rainfall in this area out there into week 2 doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just doesn't. All right. With all of that, here we go in the longer range. First, one more thing. I heard some rumblings on X about snow. Here's the probability over the next 15 days of getting some snow. There were some folks in the Northeast that were calling for snow, open up the ski resorts. I don't see it in the models, but there is the possibility here of getting some of the white stuff coming. And it's not too far away from us. If we just go back, it's with this system coming out Monday, Tuesday. See it? So some possibility of snow in that area. Okay, now the longer range. Let's get this thing wrapped up. I've talked to you multiple times about the winter low momentum, the spring low momentum, and we've backed off for a little while. If something like this, these low momentum states in the subtropics or in the mid-latitudes, shows up again in summer, long waves in summer when we're in our full convective season, in other words, no deep lows, give us an entirely different precipitation regime. And that is a drought building regime. We have to pay attention to this. Now, I've showed you all week, Matt has showed you, we keep seeing this. This is the new extended outlook from the European model for the month of June. And it is really just putting a pretty hard line right there, that if you're east of that line, the model's predicting wetter conditions. If you're west of that line, it's predicting drier. And it's been doing this every forecast run that we've got. It's very, very consistent overall. Now I'm trying to figure out why. What is it? Is it the global winds? I mean, because I continue to see the global winds hang out below this line, which is kind of our dividing line. If it's down here, we're in that low momentum long wave state. But I don't know. Are we going to temporarily build back up above that line? Is there a signal there? I don't know. I just be honest with you. I don't know. It's being very difficult to read what this low momentum state as it transitions is going to do. So I start looking for other things. I mean, earlier in the week, we talked about, and Matt and I have talked extensively about understanding where the deepest convection on the planet is. And I've just noticed one thing. We've got a bit of a slant in this. It's coming back over here. We would call this MGO phase 4, phase 5. And we see that over the next couple of weeks, that's where the best rising motion is. Yet, despite me telling you this, and so just to make a point, the establishment of that versus these week on, week off thing we talked about, see it there? The establishment of that doesn't make sense because the MJO diagrams, while they're favoring phase 4 or 5, they're not really out of null space. So it makes us ask the question, are the tropics kind of flooding the northern hemisphere with its momentum by just exhausting that air into the upper atmosphere? And I don't think it is. I think it's a very, very picky forecast on where you're getting your flow from. And I just want to make a point about this, because if we were in phase 4, 5 and going through the end of this month into next month, phase 4, 5 is big ridges here and flow like that. Now you could say we've got that right now, right? You just saw the big Caribbean ridge or Gulf ridge and then flow. But this is the end of May, getting into June. And if that's the case, I mean, we would want phase 3, 4, 5 to just crank things out. The other phases that are trickier, like phase 1, 7, and 8, those would be the ones like, I don't know, let's go to phase 7. Boy, this would be a bad scenario getting into June if we were in phase 7 or phase 8 with drought risk in the midsection of the country, I think. So I look at all of that and I come back to the other thing. I'm like, well, this is a great product from Paul Roundy. I love that he makes this. This goes all the way out to the end of June, and he just continues to see larger ridging here, sending the jet pretty far to the north with troughs east. And I look at all of that and I say, okay, I can buy this if you put a trough east and there's some ridging that's going on here. Okay, see that? Let's just bring this weird little discussion we've had to a close. That would give you this. So maybe Paul is onto something here with this, constructed analog system where he's putting this low pass over the MJO. So I'm cool with it. I think that makes sense. But we have another component to add to this, and this is where I'm going to finish. The National Weather Service updated their seasonal outlook, and they have continued to suggest that there is going to be, let's shrink this up, drought development likely here. Back into Montana, maintaining in the southwest. That's their outlook all the way through August 31st. This is this Western Corn Belt narrative we've been kind of stuck on, and I want to show it to you. This is their outlook for June, July, and August. So they are wet. They've continued to stay wet here. They're dry in these two main regions. This is what they have for July, August, September. The heart of summer, they've not changed. It's Missouri, Iowa, and Minnesota. And then we get out here to August, September, October. Now that'll be the hurricane season. I don't feel as though this model captures that very well. One more. This is September, October, November. The model loses it out here. There's temperatures. Now this is what's baffling. All of the heat they've got really west. That's summer heat risk. July, August, September. So are they also kind of doing something like this? I don't know. That's what could keep it cool in here. Watch for Canadian wildfires with this. So much to think about after this was released. That's August, September, October. So I don't know, guys. I'm just going to tell you, I could make a case for this all day, but I am not settled on the summer pattern yet because of the way the low momentum state of the atmosphere has been. Listen, I appreciate you. You all hang on for a long time while I talk every morning, and the same thing with Matt. This is just us flushing out ideas so that you can hear them and know what we're looking at. But I want you to understand that right now, my confidence is not overly high with a lot of things. I'll take the weekend to keep analyzing it. We'll put together a new picture on Monday, all right? Take care. Thanks.